everybody, welcome back once again to another great episode of John's Rockin' Vinyl 77. This time around, I have some more CDs to show you guys. And this is all stuff that I found either very late 2019 or just in the past couple of months. But I've been really busy buying CDs, and I actually have quite a decent stockpile right now of stuff that I need to show, that I'm trying to get done with the stuff that I haven't shown yet to show you guys. So this is an exciting video. There's a lot of really cool and rare CDs, so I think that there's something for everybody to like. And so I'm just gonna get started. And first off, this is an album that needs no introduction. It's the Beatles' Abbey Road. Of course, I got the 2 CD remaster edition from this past year, 2019, and it has you know, all the classics, but then it has another CD that has all these outtakes, and they're select outtakes. They're not like all the outtakes, which would have been nice to have a comprehensive. I'm sure there's something more like a vinyl box set, or a even more like a 4 CD set or something that has even more outtakes. But this is just the standard 2 CD. Has the full first album completely remixed and remastered, and it sounds really good. I like the sound. I like the new remaster of it. There are things I don't like about it, but for the most part, it's a pretty solid, I would say, job remastering. I think the Sgt. Pepper's fared better in the remaster. I think this didn't. I don't really feel like it needed a remaster, but it is really cool to have all those extra bonus tracks, you know, to listen to and see where they were, because a lot of these tracks have never been released before in this quality. So it's really cool to have those outtakes and to have a new take on the production of Abbey Road. So really cool find, and I'm glad to get it. And it has this is the one thing I really don't like about this, is that even the earlier, like, I remember the 2009 reissues of Abbey Road, and like they just have cut down on the quality of like the packaging. This is very, very cheap to me, and CD in both pockets. Not exactly a fan of that. I liked having the, you know, the ones where it had like a pocket inside, kind of neat, or if it still had the jewel case and you just punched it out. But they just put a slot in it, you know. Very cheap paper too, but it does come with a nice little booklet. And in the old one, it would have just been a thin booklet. I mean, you don't. I don't think you really need a thick booklet. You know, I mean, I'd rather have a nice case than a thick booklet. But I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm already, you know, getting out of, you know, out of where I even need to be in this. But I'm excited to have it and hear that new take. And I've not shown this because I was marinating the sound. You know, what I like, what I don't like. There are certain songs that I feel like fare really well on here. And then I'm trying to think of a particular one that doesn't really work for me. I think the medley in particular doesn't really sound as good as some of the other songs, but some of the, like, Come Together has never sounded better in my opinion. Has really rich, really loud drum mix, which is totally different from the original. So there's definitely the good outweighs the bad on this release, I would say. And if you're a Beatles collector and you love Abbey Road, you gotta get it. So probably shouldn't have talked about that for like 5 minutes, but anyway, here we got Yes 90125, which is their kind of comeback album in 1983. Of course, a pretty different lineup. Has Trevor Rabin, Chris Squire, John Anderson, Alan White, and Tony Kaye. But this is actually a West German pressing. That's why I was going to show this. It has the Target label. This is a pink Atco Target label with pink and green. So Pretty cool find. Glad to have that. And then up next, I've got Kingdom Come. This is like hard rock, really good hard rock. And I meant to make this as part of my last video, but it was just going too long, so I just cut it short. So yeah, Kingdom Come, and this is produced by Bob Rock and Lenny Wolf, which is the vocalist. Lenny Wolf was in oh god, what was the band? I can't remember what the band was, but he was in a band. Danny Stagg on lead guitar. So yeah, this is on Polydor. This is just like a late 80s hard rock album. I would say very influenced by Led Zeppelin, you know, stuff like that, of course. Good album. I mean, they've been kind of lambasted in the history of rock music as being Kingdom clone, you know, like they're trying to clone Led Zeppelin. But, I mean, there are particular moments where they are definitely taking influence from Led Zeppelin, but it's not all, you know, there's elements of a lot of other things too. Speaking of another band that has been kind of talked about as being like a Led Zeppelin wannabe, we got Greta Van Fleet, right? And this is From the Fires. This is their first EP release plus 4 songs. 4 new songs, or 3 new songs. I think, yeah, 3 new songs. So, I really like this band. I've been following them since 2016-ish. So I've been kind of following them a little bit, and I enjoy what they do. They're kind of playing classic style rock, and of course it does sound reminiscent of Led Zeppelin. But I would say the second album or the first album really, because this isn't technically an album, but the first album is just totally, I wouldn't say totally different, but definitely has more influence on other 70s, just 70s in general, 70s rock in general, than specifically Led Zeppelin, I would say. So, but this album has definitely a Led Zeppelin feel, and I think that on the first, I keep saying first or second album, but I'm just going to say the first album because it's technically their first, but yeah, the first album has more of a almost a little more, I would say a little more mature in my opinion. This album's good, but I feel like the writing is better on the second album. I'm just going to say second album, I guess. Anyway, but this is cool. I'm glad to I found this, I think I got this when I got the Abbey Road, so around that, 2019, late 2019, so another holdover from then. What else have we got? This is another cool find. Badlands. Of course, this has the wonderful Jakey Lee on guitar, and then the wonderful Ray Gillen on vocals. Sadly missed. Ray Gillen passed away several years ago, and I think Badlands only did 3 albums, something like 2 or 3 albums, and of course the first was the better one. And again, another late 80s hard rock album. This is actually pretty rare to actually find on CD. I've not seen many copies of it for sale. And this also has the bonus track Ball and Chain. Definitely hear that hard rock, 70s hard rock influence, definitely. Has a Led Zeppelin feel a lot of the time. But very good. I highly recommend Badlands. Very, very good hard rock, you know. Then up next, this is kind of a cool find for me. This is Boston's Third Stage. When I found this, I didn't really know exactly what this was, but this is actually an original first made in Japan pressing for the US market, which is it has a slightly different mix, because I was listening. I had one, the later one, basically, the one that was more known of, and this one has a more, just a different mix. I say there's a lot more bass in the mix. Definitely interesting to listen to, and it's just kind of cool to find, a Japanese import copy. Okay, up next, I'm gonna go with another thing kind of in the same vein. We got The Royal Scam by Steely Dan, which is commonly referred to as probably their finest album. Has Kid Charlemagne, The Caves of Almira, I think that's how you say it. Don't Take Me Alive. Don't Take Me Alive, which is a really good song. Really good song. All these songs on here, pretty solid, I would say. I still like Can't Buy a Thrill a little bit more, just because that was the one that I really sunk my teeth in. But The Royal Scam is definitely musically very, very nice. There's a lot of really good good passages and stuff. Very technical playing, and everything's very precision. And this is an original MCA. Not the made in Japan, I don't think. Yeah, manufactured in the U.S. Yeah, not the... But yeah, this... Really, it is a good sounding CD too, and it's an original, pressing of it. Kind of hard to find, don't see them very often. And now we're gonna check out some Christian rock. We got Petra, More Power to You. And this is a very rare CD to find, actually. I've not seen very many copies of this floating around on Star Song. And Petra was just a late 70s, early 80s Christian rock band. You can definitely see they're kind of aping the Boston style cover, Just a couple of albums before I was showing you some Boston, but yeah, Petra is one of the most famous Christian rock bands from that period. I mean, there really weren't any bigger Christian rock bands. Stryper was pretty big, but they were more like a metal-ish, they were more of like just pretty much a rock. I mean, and then they kind of went more poppy later, but this is pretty good, kind of like commercial rock sounding album. I like the album before this a little bit better. Never Say Die, I think is what it's called. I think I have the double. It's like a double CD, and I just found it lying, at like a thrift store somewhere. So these are pretty rare, actually. These Petra CDs, so very cool. I'd show that. And this is kind of a crazy coincidence that I was going to show this, because this has Bob Kulick. This band, I'll show you right here on the inside. You see him right there in the middle, Bob Kulick. Yep. And this is Balance. The Balance's first album, and then In for the Count, which was their big hit. And so it has both of their albums. I think they only did the 2 albums, so pretty rare. And they actually did some reunion shows. There's actually some live footage of them playing not too long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I would say. And this is a pretty neat find. And I found this at a thrift store too. And has the first album and the second album. But it's crazy that I was going to show this, because Bob Kulick just recently passed away just a couple of days ago. Which was pretty shocking, because, I don't even know if all the info's out about what happened, or if that even needs to be talked about. But of course, Bob Kulick is Bruce Kulick's brother. If you know who Bruce Kulick is, Bruce Kulick was in Kiss for quite a while. And I think Bob Kulick played on some Kiss stuff too. I think he played some some of the live albums or something. But anyway, yeah, there's Balance, and rest in peace, Bob Kulick. So very cool. Kind of like, I would say they're kind of like art rock, pop rock, Little bit. There's a little bit of that. I would say there's a little Freddie Mercury kind of influence. I would say Queen, a little bit, especially in the vocal delivery of a lot of the music. But I would say if you're into pop rock, if you're into late 70s AOR kind of stuff, early 80s, then this is going to be right up your alley. So, very good stuff. So I've been, I bought a little collection on eBay. I've been getting into this particular artist. I've always liked Pat Benatar, and this is In the Heat of the Night, but never really listened to the albums, like, other than Crimes of Passion. I know Crimes of Passion, but never really listened to any of the other albums, and there's some really good stuff on all of the albums. I mean, Heartbreaker was a huge hit. That was the huge hit off of this one. If You Think You Know How to Love Me, which is it's a Nicky Chinn song, and Chapman. In the Heat of the Night, kind of like slow, brooding, kind of funky, you know. My Clone Sleeps Alone is good. We Live for Love, great, phenomenal. That should have been a much bigger hit, in my opinion. Maybe too ahead of its time, probably. But We Live for Love is a great song. Don't Let It Show is good. Really good. Written by Alan Parsons. But yeah, In the Heat of the Night. And this is an original US of In the Heat of the Night. And then I also got the follow-up to Crimes of Passions, which I have Crimes of Passions on CD too. But I've already had it, so I'm just showing the new ones I picked up. Precious Time. And this is a phenomenal album. This is one of the great albums that no one ever talks about. Precious Time is a great album. Has Promises in the Dark, Fire and Ice, Just Like Me, Precious Time, It's a Tough Life, Take It Any Way You Want It. That's another great song. Evil Geniuses, another great song. Hard to Believe. I think that's one of the weaker songs. Still pretty good, but then they do a cover of Helter Skelter, which is really good too. So, can't go wrong with a Precious Time. Really solid album. And I'm a fan, so definitely been getting into the Pat Benatar stuff. And then I got the next album after that, which would be Get Nervous. And a lot of people would say this is probably a sell-out kind of album. It's not as rockin' as her first 3 or 4 albums, but it still has some of that edge to it. There's still Fight It Out's pretty good. The Victim's pretty good. Of course, Shadows in the Night was a big hit. Anxiety, Get Nervous, the title track. Really, it's a good album. And again, on the Chrysalis label. Pretty rare. You don't see these early ones that often. So I grabbed them. I got a really good deal. I think I paid like $9, and I got like 6 different Pat Benatar CDs. I got a couple other ones that are a little more mad at me. They're not, the more late 80s stuff. I just thought I'd show the earlier 80s stuff, which I really like. So now we're going to get into some more stuff I really like. Up next we got Sheriff. This is the self-titled debut album. And I got this quite a while ago, I'm not going to lie. But I just thought I'd show it just because it's a really good album. Canadian rock, pop rock, AOR, You Remind Me, California, Making My Way, When I'm With You, Mama's Baby, Crazy Without You, Alyssa, Living for a Dream, Give Me Rock and Roll. Really good kind of AOR. It's got some hard rock flares on it, especially Kept Me Coming and Give Me Rock and Roll, which are the ending tracks on both sides. So those are the more hard-edged tracks. But yeah, When I'm With You, of course, was a huge hit. Not in the time that it came out, but much later on. And then, of course, they became Alias later on with Freddie Kershey, which is one of the best rock vocalists from that time period, in my opinion. One of the most underrated rock vocalists. And really good album. Really solid The production's a little bad. It's not the greatest production, but for 1982, sounds pretty good. And definitely you can tell they're kind of aping on Styx a little bit. There's some Styx influenced stuff on here, but definitely a band in their own right, having making their own music, coming up with their own, self-penned tracks and stuff. Really, I mean, there's nothing particularly bad on this album. So, glad to have this, and of course I have the Alias album too. So, up next, this is another great, phenomenal, I would call a supergroup. And they only did one album. This is one of the biggest supergroups of all time. Should have been way more. We got Shadow King, featuring Lou Gramm, Bruce Turgon. He was with Bruce Turgon was in Black Sheep with Lou Gramm, so they have early ties to each other. They were friends for years and years. And then Vivian Campbell from Dio on a guitar, just cranking. This thing is rock. I mean, I heard a review talking about very keyboard heavy. This album's not that, doesn't have much keyboard really. I mean, it has keyboard in the background, but there's not a lot of heavy keyboard in the front. It's mostly in the background. It's mostly driven by guitar and drums. Very guitar-driven album, really. And it kills. It's one of the best hard rock AOR albums you've ever heard, that no one's ever heard about. Such a good album. I can't talk about it enough. And this is a promo copy, of course. And then another thing in that same kind of vein, we got Giant, Last of the Runaways. This is another promo copy. It's got the little hype sticker. These are actually quite collectible. I think this is like a $20 CD as a promo. It's even got on the front of the CD, it says promotional across. And this is another phenomenal melodic rock AOR album. One of the best of all time. And I love Giant. This album and the second album, Time to Burn, I think is what the second one's called. But are some of the most exquisite songwriting, singing, the guitar capabilities that Dan Huff goes. He just work, and he sings and he plays guitar and he writes all the songs. What a talented guy. I mean, and he never. I mean, he did like production for other people a lot in the late '90s and stuff, and he played on a lot of albums, but this was his only really breakthrough band. And it's a shame that they only did the 2 albums, and then subsequently there were some other Giant releases, but without original members, so, and particularly missing was Dan Huff, which was the founding member, so definitely, I mean, a phenomenal, just balls to the wall songwriting. I mean, the songwriting on this is phenomenal. Some of the best from that time period, from the late 80s. And it's unfortunate that they never really made it. They never really made it that big. So, as a band called Giant, and they never made it that big. You can see the pun there, So, now I'm down to the last 3 CDs. And let's go with a little Dawn Patrol action by Night Ranger. And originally this band was going to be called Ranger, but there was already a band called Ranger, so they had to come up with the band name Night Ranger. And then just so happened the last track on the album was called Night Ranger, so it ties perfectly together. So, I mean, this is like a phenomenal debut album, and this thing rocks. There's not a bad track on this thing. And this is actually a German pressing on Boardwalk, which I don't think there were ever any other CDs released on Boardwalk other than these German releases like this. There's like the US, I think the US versions were on MCA, so, and Camel. So, This is really cool. And really, and it really has a punchy sound. I think this is probably the best sounding version of this album, on CD at least. So, great album. Not a bad thing on it. Then we got Survivor. I'm repping the t-shirt. You know, I'm repping the Eye of the Tiger t-shirt. Original 1982, you know, t-shirt. And then we got, this is Caught in the Game, which was the last album to feature Dave Bickler on vocals, of course. And produced by Frankie Sullivan. And this has tracks like Caught in the Game, Jackie Don't Go, I Never Stopped Loving You, It Doesn't Have to Be This Way, Ready for the Real Thing, Half-Life, What Do You Really Think, Slander, and Santa Ana Wins. So, yeah, it's a pretty rocking album. This is actually a 1999 reissue of Made for Japan. And this is I would say, the best sounding versions of these albums. The 1999 remasters. I'm still looking for, I have Premonition, I have the original Japanese from 86 or 87, whenever they did the CD release. And it sounds pretty good, but I think the 99 ones are the ones you want. So I'm looking out, I need Eye of the Tiger on the 99, and then last but not least, I have one of my best finds ever. A band I love, a local Atlanta band. They only did one album. We got Riggs. Riggs' self-titled debut on CD. Finally have it after all this time. Been wanting it for years and years. Just haven't had the opportunity to get it because they're just, when you see them, they're $80, $100. So I saw one considerably marked down, and I took a shot at it, and it was great because this thing is fully remastered from the original master tapes. The quality of the sound is like so much better than, because I had a vinyl rip that I made on my turntable, and I had that saved as MP3 files, and this just blows that out of the water. Just the quality. Also, I didn't do a great job, you know, transferring it, but this thing, just the bass, the dynamics, so much better. So this is I mean, and if you know anything about this CD, this is such a rare CD. When this came out in 2011, very limited copies of this were released, and I'm glad to have a piece of, you know, Riggs history in my hand, because it's so rare to have a major label, Warner Brothers. They actually approved Wounded Bird Records to make this, so this is as good as it gets. They'll never officially release this, you know, for on Warner Brothers, you know, records or anything, or Full Moon. They won't reissue it ever because it's just not, there's just not enough demand, or it's not popular enough. But because this small label contacted Warner Brothers and were like, there might be some money in it for you, we'll pay you this if we press this. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best debut albums ever, from the 80s at least, from 1982. Just floors, I mean, Ready or Not, One Night Affairs, Over and Over, Writing on the Wall, Christine, Don't Walk Away, Too Strong. Just a great album. I mean, of course, Jerry Riggs on vocals, Jeremy Graff on guitar, Stephen Ray Carlisle on drums, and then David Riderick on bass. So yeah, just an awesome, really awesome album. So anyway, that's my finds for right now. Hopefully this video didn't go too long. I'm going to check and see in a minute. But I should have another update in a week or two, because I have a bunch of CDs I need to show already, and then I'll probably, by that time, I'll probably have even more stuff piled up, so I'll have to show that later too. So anyway, until that time, talk to you guys later. Peace out. Bye.